Welcome to the Mindset Coach podcast, brought to you by the Mindset Coach Academy. I'm Lara Young, your host and Master Certified Coach. Whether you're a seasoned coach or just starting your coaching career, this podcast is your go-to resource for all things mindset, coaching, and personal development. Each week, we bring you expert insights, practical strategies, and inspirational stories to help you become the best coach you can be. Our guests range from leading industry professionals to successful mindset coaches who share their secrets for creating lasting change. Plus, I'll be answering your burning questions and sharing tips from our ICF and multi-accredited Mindset Coach certification program. So, if you're ready to elevate your coaching game, stay tuned and let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Mindset Coach podcast. I am thrilled to be joined by Nicola Semple. Nicola is an ex-Big Four consultant turned career coach who is passionate about helping people to find happiness and fulfilment in their work. She's worked with hundreds of professionals to help them take ownership of their careers and achieve their potential. Nicola is the author of the Career Confidence Toolkit, host of the Career Confidence podcast, and the creator of the You Are Enough coaching cards. Welcome, Nicola.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, as always. Nicola you're also one of our alumni from the Mindset Coach Academy and one of our faculty too. So
I am, and I'll tell you what is quite scary. But when I was thinking about this call, I was trying to remember when I was actually part of the program. 2019. That was 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago.
I know. It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, they always say that you can tell how time's passing by how your children are growing, but it's also by how long ago someone has worked with you or studied with you. And I'm sure you've got clients who'll say to you, oh my gosh, it's 3-4 years since I worked with you last time. And there's so much that's happened. It's incredible, isn't it? So time has passed and you've achieved a lot in that time. And most recently has been the publication of your book, The Career Confidence Toolkit, and which I have to say is brilliant and has been receiving incredible reviews and feedback. And I think one of the things that I'm curious about, and I know people listening will be too, is what does career confidence actually mean?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I have been working in this space for about 4 years now and have been using the term career confidence because actually what it does, it brings together two things. It's bringing together career and confidence, quite obviously. But when you think about it, career it's about the job or series of jobs you have over the course of your lifetime. Confidence is about having that trust, having that belief in yourself that you can do something. And when you bring them both together, career confidence is all about having an innate trust in yourself that you can successfully navigate whatever comes up in your career. So it's not saying that you're going to be outwardly super confident in every situation that you're in. But it's about having that deep held belief that no matter what comes up, you're going to be able to handle it. And if you can't handle it, you're going to find the tools or you're going to find the resources or you're going to find the people that will help you navigate whatever those challenges will be. But it's really about having that sense of autonomy and that ability to be the master or the mistress of your own destiny.
Yeah, brilliant. And what do your clients come to you most seeking? So when they start to work with you, what are they looking for?
Clients come to me because they're stuck, right? Now, they can be stuck for a number of reasons, but the number one thing that they want to achieve is getting out of that place of stuckness, whatever that might be for them. So it's about getting some clarity around, well, why am I stuck? What's keeping me stuck? And usually what's keeping them stuck is them, but it takes us a while to get there. But identifying where the stuckness is coming from and then helping them to carve out their path forward.
Yeah.
How are they going to get from where they are now to where it is that they want to go? And a lot of it can be about unraveling where it is that they do want to go. because most people just don't know where they want to go. And I think a lot of people that I work with have fallen into their career. So what has happened is generally they've gone to university, they've got a good degree, they've got a graduate job somewhere, they've started down that path of corporate life, and then they find a few years in, they get promoted. And then they keep on going, and then they get promoted again. And they can find themselves, 15 years down the track going, how on earth did I end up here?
Yeah.
And so they then feel very stuck where they are because they don't know what other options are available to them. And they don't even know what they would want. They have this yearning for something different, but they don't know what that something different is. And so the work that we do together is really helping them to work out, well, what does that future look like for them? And sometimes that means making quite a big career change. And sometimes it means staying where they are, but viewing it through a whole different mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And that sounds a little bit similar. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that sounds a little bit similar to your journey where, you'd kind of gone into the Big Four. You had a high-flying job in corporate consultancy. Can you share with us a little bit about what happened in your specific journey?
Yeah. So my career path has been a long and winding road. So I actually started at Accenture, and then I also worked with KPMG and Ernst & Young. And while I was in those roles, I was never, I wasn't a square peg in a round hole, but I was a slightly bumpy round peg in a smooth round hole because, I could get on with the job. I did really well. I was getting promoted. I was getting all the ticks in the box that I should be getting in that arena, but it just never felt right. And then when I had my kids, I made the decision that I wasn't going back to that corporate life. So my eldest is now 15, and the world was a very different place 15 years ago, which, it's great that we've had the advances we've had in terms of flexible working and part-time working, but the options just weren't quite there at that point in time. And so it was at that point that I decided that I was going to forge my own path. And that led me through various iterations of my own business. I have been a small business mentor. I've run a community for women who work from home around their children. I retrained as a coach because what I was finding was that in terms of the practical mentoring, we were moving so much more into the mindset space that I wanted to get the tools to be able to support people in the best way possible. And so was working with small business owners around mindset coaching. And then the pandemic hit, and a lot of that work dried up. But what was happening at the same time was that previous colleagues that I had worked with were getting in touch to say, I don't know if I want to keep doing this for much longer, but I don't know what I want to do instead. And, coaches can coach anyone. So I started to coach them through the issues that they were having, and then realized that what I was able to do was come full circle. I could use all of the coaching experience, everything that I had gained through my self-employment journey, and go back and help people who were just like me, who just didn't know what they wanted to do next. And I can now support them to get that clarity much quicker than it took me.
Yeah, brilliant. I think the pandemic was a real time, wasn't it, where people were either really realised they were really happy where they were in their career and in their life, or that things needed to change because they had more time to reflect and, time maybe not to go into the office and, realise that actually maybe there is something else out there for me, whether that's working for myself or working in another job or what have you. And it's interesting because, sometimes when we think of the term career, we think very much of this, long thought out plan that I'm going to get there, and I'm going to be, in 10 steps, I'm going to be in this position. And very often, though, it's the next thing. and then the next thing, rather than feeling like you have to be, a million miles ahead from where you already are.
And the reality of life now is that nobody can be a million miles ahead because we don't know what's coming. So there was a report that was issued in 2019 by the Institute for the Future. And in that report, they stated that 85% of the jobs that would exist in 2030 didn't exist in 2019. So if you think we're kind of 5 years into that process, like just if we look back 5 years, 85% of the jobs that will be available in 5 years' time didn't even exist back then. And the really tangible examples that I give are my nieces. So my nieces are now in their 20s. One of them is a user experience expert for designing apps. The iPhone didn't even exist when she was born. Another niece is a TikTok influencer, a very, very successful TikTok influencer. She's got sponsorship contracts coming out of her ears. Facebook didn't even exist when she was born. So these professions are completely new. So we cannot sit here and map out what our career is going to look like over the next 10, 15, 20 years. It's completely impossible. But what we can do is equip ourselves with the tools that we need to be able to navigate that journey as confidently and as successfully as we possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. Often one of my daughters says to me, I want to be a YouTube influencer. And I say to her, darling, by the time she's 12, by the time you're 15, 16, YouTube may not even exist. These things may not exist when that happens. And I think it's interesting because even in the absence of knowing exactly what skills are required, there's the increase in artificial intelligence, et cetera. And, new apps, new developments are happening all the time, as you say. Maybe one of the most important things that you help your clients to do is to, as you say, have confidence in their own ability, but really to work on their mindset of being open to whatever's happening, right? And navigating those changes. So what are the ways that mindset impacts on, career confidence?
I'm sure you'll agree with this phrase, Lara, because I hear you say it all the time. Mindset is everything. Yeah,
absolutely. 100%.
So it absolutely is everything. And it's effectively the lens through which we see the world. So when we're thinking about our career and how we feel about our career, we need to really dig deep and understand what are the things that are influencing our lens. So that's like tracking back and working out, okay, well, what are my values? What have my experiences been that have influenced the beliefs that I hold about myself? And then really becoming super self-aware. So I always encourage my clients to become their own personal private detective, where they're going out and holding up that magnifying glass to everything that has come before, so that they can then map out what they want from their future. And that is something, it's a skill that you can develop. And for me, it's the number one skill that I want my clients to have. And also going back to the point about our kids, if we can make our kids self-aware, if we can get them to understand the influence of mindset in terms of everything that they do, whether that be education or when they go on to their career, then I think what we're going to do is really equip people to move forward as confidently and also as happily as they can be. Because when people feel career confident, they also feel happy in their work. They feel like they've got a sense of agency and control over it. And that makes such a massive difference.
Yeah, it is so powerful, isn't it? And we work so many, our lives when it comes to work, a significant proportion of that is at work, and having that happiness and feeling like we are in control, that we're making a contribution, whatever our values are, that they're completely aligned, so that we're actually, they're being fulfilled by what we do, is just so important. And I think, sometimes I love the fact that you mentioned earlier that sometimes, you work with clients and it's about helping them to have a new lens or a new perspective on their career in the job they're in, or in
Yeah.
the organization that they're in. Because I think a lot of people think, oh my gosh, I'm not enjoying my job. I'm not stretched. My skills aren't being used. And they're looking for external opportunities. But sometimes by having a few productive conversations, by getting really clear about what it is that they do want, they actually can be happy and fulfilled in either in their current role or in a new role within their current environment, their current organization.
I think that's a really important point, if I can just pick up on it. What I have noticed over the past 12 to 18 months or so is that I'm having more conversations with people to help them develop their stay plan rather than their exit plan.
Yeah.
And there are a variety of reasons for that, but a big one has been the cost of living crisis, because ultimately people are going, do you know what? Actually, what I really appreciate about the job that I've got is the financial security it gives me.
Yes.
Now, if we're going to be completely honest, when they then look at the rest of their values, not all of them are being fulfilled within the role that they've got in their current organisation. So we then think about, okay, well, where else could those values be fulfilled? Could you take a trustee role with a charity? Could you, I have a client who we went through a really lengthy career clarity process, and she was heading off in a direction. It was really quite exciting, where she was going to pursue her artwork. So she was very artistic, and she had this dream of setting up a community for artists, and it was all getting really exciting. And then she came back to a session and she went, do you know what? I'm not going to do any of that, because right now I really like the fact I can pay my mortgage. And we were like, okay, that's great, because she now has that new realization that being able to pay her mortgage is at the top of her list of priorities. And so we then decided, right, if she's going to stay in that current role, what else does she need to do to be able to fulfill that creative side of her? And so, she committed to a weekly art class. She went on a painting retreat, and she still has the seed of the idea for the artistic community, but that's further down the track because there are other things that are more important to her right now. And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about, one of the things with values and values work is about saying, how is this value fulfilled currently? And if it's not, what are the creative ways this value can be fulfilled? Whether it's whether it's in the job or external to the job, but that is where they're being lit up, where that value is being fulfilled in a way that means that they then can be happy and feel in alignment and balanced across all areas of life. And, that's just so important that we have that holistic approach to, feeling as though everything that we're doing is of value, is important to us, that lights us up, that we feel,
and I think that the holistic approach is a really important one. So again, a conversation with a different client where she was very clear she was in a contracting role, and she was deeply, deeply unhappy in the role. It was quite a toxic situation. But when we did the values exercise with her, immediately she said, now I understand why I hate it so much, because it's not giving me any of these things. Yeah. And then I asked her the question of, well, where else could you get those things at the moment until the contract comes to the end, because it only had another 2 or 3 months to go. And I swear it was like Blackpool illuminations had gone off above her head, where it had never crossed her mind that she could have her values fulfilled elsewhere, because she was so focused on work, so focused on her career, and always had been. And for her to then think, well, where else could I get this? Yeah. And then identify where those opportunities were and start to bring that into her life in different ways, where, quite frankly, she just had to ride out that contract in quite a toxic environment, because she was contractually committed to it and financially needed to do it. And so she just had to get her head down and make it happen. But that didn't mean that she had to be completely miserable while she was there. She could find the other things that she could bring into her life that would make that situation much more tolerable for herself.
Hey there, coaches. I just wanted to take a moment to remind you about our Mindset Coach certification program. This is not just any certification. It's an ICF and multi-accredited program designed to provide you with the skills, knowledge, and confidence you need to transform lives. If you're serious about elevating your coaching practice and making a lasting impact, visit our website at mindsetcoachacademy.com to learn more. It's your opportunity to join a community of passionate and dedicated coaches. When we do think about values and we explore our values, we can have those value statements like freedom or creativity. And unless we actually dive deeply into what they actually mean for a client, then again, it can be quite surface level. Because if we talk about creativity, for example, for one person, it may mean, like with your client, that it's an artistic pursuit. It's being artistically creative. But for someone else, that value could mean, I want to explore and express my creativity through really effective problem solving. Like I love going in and finding creative solutions. And so as coaches, it's just that it's really important, isn't it, that we're able to help our clients to actually get to the heart of what does that actually mean for you tangibly in your life for that to be fulfilled. You know, something like freedom for one person will be time freedom to be able to go and collect the children from the school gates. For someone else, it would be autonomy. I want the freedom to be able to make my own decisions. And so again, that's just so important that we help our clients to think about something perhaps that not a lot of people think about a lot of the time. It's what is important.
So the values exercise is one of, if not my most favorite thing to do with a client. And what I absolutely love is that people generally come up with a list of values that once you start prioritizing them, the order completely changes, and quite often things fall off the list altogether. And when I'm talking about in the context of career values, and clients will come up with this beautiful list of career values, and then I always challenge them and say, not seen anything about finances on there. And they're like, oh, no, I need to put something in. I talk about it in terms of financial security, earning what you earn now, or financial aspiration. You want to push the boundary and earn more. And then we work our way through the values exercise. And like 80% of the time, financial security ends up being top of the list when they hadn't even put it on there in the first place. Because they had forgotten the fact that actually the financial security they get from the career they have, it's not a given. It's not a given. So we have to, kind of put that front and center, and then make sure that they are comfortable with the other values that come around that.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because I know we've had conversations, in the Mindset Coach Academy around this with when we do those values activities around coaches realizing that they haven't got those as values and they're wanting to run a coaching business. And so the other things seem to take priority, like, helping people, those kind of things, contribution. When we actually then have to say, have you noticed that, as you've said with your clients, have you noticed that finances in some way, shape or form, not actually on there, they're not making the list? Because the important thing about that, of course, is that unless we value something, unless it's important to us, we don't pay it any attention. And then, you're like, well, you're not making money in your business. Here's why, right? And money is sometimes something that people will think, oh, maybe I shouldn't. What will people think of me if I say money?
Yeah.
What will people
and a lot of that, again, if I use another specific client example, I worked with somebody who, in her opening conversation, she had talked about how she wanted to move house. So she had 2 kids and they both shared a bedroom, and she really wanted to move house so that they could both have separate bedrooms. So I knew a bit of the backstory.
Mm.
And then when we got on to talking about values, and I gave her that challenge of, I'm not seeing anything about finances on there. And she said, oh no, but that doesn't matter. And I said, well, how are you going to get these things that you want?
Mm.
And that then led us into a conversation about how when she was growing up, she was always told never to ask for more.
Yes.
Be happy with your lot, be happy with what you've got. And so she felt uncomfortable wanting to have that financial aspiration that would then allow her to create the life that she wanted for her children.
Yeah. And this is where this holistic approach comes in, because that's a belief or a limiting decision that is then impacting her today in terms of what she's saying is important to her, or even not considering something because it's never been on the table before. Before. And it's really important, isn't it, that we do have that approach which looks at the whole client. I mean, we've spent time talking about values, but we're actually looking at the whole client. We're looking at their goals. We're looking at, what they actually want to achieve through the career. We're looking at their confidence. I mean, confidence is an emotion, right? It's an approach. It's a mindset as well. And so all of those elements are really critical when it comes to the work that you do. I wonder, you've worked with many clients over the past 4 and some years. What's the number one mistake you think that people make when it comes to their career development?
They put it in the hands of other people, or they think it's somebody else's responsibility. And actually, it's all down to them. So there is no knight or dame in shining armor that's going to swoop in and sort everything out for them. They need to figure out what they want. They then need to go out and do the work to get it. Now, particularly within large corporate organizations, there will be structures in place. There will be sponsors that you need to get on your side to make sure that you have the support you need to achieve what you want in your career. But ultimately, if you do not take control, nobody else will.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about, in those organizations, it's about having those conversations, not just with your sponsor or your mentor, but other people as well. And oftentimes I think people discount so readily that there are so many opportunities internally. We've spoken about this before, and they're like, well, I'm going to go and get a job elsewhere. And then they come back and say, I've found another job and they're paying me 10 grand more. And can you match it? And all of those kind of things, which, from a psychological contract point of view, can be a little bit tricky for both parties. Yeah. But actually, I think there's an increasing recognition in organizations now that, we want to cultivate good levers, because people are staying in jobs for less amount of time. Companies are investing in the development of their people. And so having a strategy as an organization, even where, people are able to maybe get to a certain level, leave, go to another organization, grow and develop, and then come back, and knowing that door's open. And I think so many people, when they leave an organization, they burn that bridge rather than thinking, actually, if I had the confidence in my career, in knowing where I want to go, and maybe ultimately I do want to end up back here where there's more likelihood of me getting a senior position, then I need to have those conversations, and I need to build those relationships and cultivate them in an ongoing way. Would you say that people don't feel confident in having those conversations, or?
I think increasingly they are. And also what I'm finding really heartening is that I'm starting to work with more and more organizations as opposed to just the individuals. And the organizations want their people to be career confident. They want their people to take control of their career, both internally and externally. And by that, I mean, so internally is about, developing their network, developing their relationships, identifying opportunities, identifying projects that they can be part of so that they can really expand their experience within the organization. But they're also asking them to become career confident externally. And that's in terms of being a thought leader in the marketplace, being recognized and known within the industry, which means making sure that they're building their network externally, making sure that they're building their LinkedIn presence as well, so that they have this shop front that they can show to the world about what they have to offer. Now, inevitably, what's going to happen as a result of that is that there will be movement within organizations, because people will be spotted, people will be headhunted as a result of it. But that's okay, because what these organizations want to do, and they're being very forward thinking, is about making sure that they are giving their employees what they need so that they can have the best possible career. And ideally, they'll have large chunks of that career in that organization. But if they decide to leave, they can also be a great ambassador for the organization.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I know, my background, as you know, is in, HR leadership. I was global head of HR, and particularly working, around leadership and organizational design and culture. And this was a big push in the organizations where I was working, to help leadership understand the importance of that ongoing cultivation of individuals, like you say, to be career confident externally, because they go off and then they're making connections, and they may make referrals of people back into the original organization.
Yeah, they may make referrals, but if they've had a bad experience, they're going to say, don't go and work there, because that was an atrocious experience that I had. And so it's, again, we're going back to that thinking holistically. So this isn't thinking holistically just about the person, it's thinking holistically as organizations. How do we best attract talent? And the way you best attract talent is to look after the talent you've got.
100%. And, it is also, in looking after that talent, it is also really wishing them well when they do get a job in another organization, and maintaining that relationship afterwards, importantly, rather than saying, oh, well, we're glad she's gone, we didn't need her anyway, or, those kind of things.
I have one corporate client that I work with on an ongoing basis, and the very first coaching assignment I had from them, they phoned me up on a Friday afternoon at like 4:30 and said, is there any chance that you could do a coaching session over the weekend? We have somebody who has just come to us, submitted their resignation. We want to gift them 2 hours of coaching with you for them to identify whether this is the right decision for them. It will be completely confidential. You don't have to feed anything back to us, but we want to make sure that they've thought this through properly. How awesome is that? Like, I want to go and work. Well, I don't want to go and work there, but if I was in that world, I would want to go and work there. Now, the outcome was that she decided that she was leaving, but she left on such good terms. She was so grateful to have had that opportunity, for them not just to have thought about it, funded it, made it happen really quickly so that she could still go back on the Monday and accept or decline the offer. And that is going to stand that organisation in such good stead in terms of that individual, but also what she's then going to say to other people. So she worked in a law firm in quite a small geographical area. So everybody knows everybody. And so it's really, really important that they've got that good word of mouth, goodwill going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it is so important, isn't it, that we also look at that line between an organisation hiring a coach in, and the coach being able to respect those boundaries of that confidentiality as well. I think a lot of organisations can tend to make the mistake of thinking that because they've hired the coach, that then the coach needs to debrief them or provide feedback or anything, or things like that, when in fact, that's a direct breach of our role as coaches, to maintain the confidentiality of that overall relationship.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because different organizations take different approaches. And I have a client at the moment, a corporate client, who they've quite a command and control structure. And so what they wanted was a debrief at the end of every coaching session. And I said, that's like, I can't do that because that is a breach of confidentiality, yada, yada, yada. So where we eventually got to is that I draft an email that covers broadly the topics that we've covered, but my coachee reviews it before it goes to the HR department.
Yeah.
And then that ensures that she feels comfortable with what's been fed back. The organization still feels that they've got control over the situation. But I will never work with any organization that wants me to breach confidentiality or that doesn't allow freedom within the coaching conversation to talk about whatever we want to talk about without fear of it being fed back elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of, even if you're going in, doing leadership coaching or what have you, organizations have got to appreciate that sometimes the outcome of that is not retention, but it's actually departure of the employee's own choice, right? Or the coachee's own choice. And again, that's the coach coaching the employee to making their own decision, not the coach making a decision on their behalf. So it's a fascinating field, isn't it? What if we've got people listening now who are thinking, actually, this is really resonating with me. I am feeling a bit stuck at the moment and I need some coaching. I'd love to be coached by Nicola. Tell us a little bit about how people can work with you. Obviously, we've got the Career Confidence Toolkit, your book, which people can buy. But how can people work with you one-to-one, Nicola?
So I will just reiterate because I need to talk about it. I'm very bad at talking. I'm very good at creating stuff and then not talking about it. So I'm just going to reiterate the Career Confidence Toolkit is available on Amazon globally. So do go on and have a look for it. In terms of working for me, I have standard packages that you can access on my website. So you can go to nicolasemple.com and all of my standard packages are there. What I have learned over the years is that not everybody fits into a standard package. So what I always encourage people to do is to set up a time for us to have a chat. So you can do that, nicolasemple.com/chat. And let's just talk about where you are and what you need and how we can construct something that is going to be helpful and supportive and move you forward from that place of stuckness to where you want to go. And it might be one of those standard packages, which, as I say, are on the website. The prices are there. It's really transparent. So, what you see is what you get. But it might be that you need elements of different packages and we can pull that together and create something unique and bespoke for you so that you get the outcome that you really need.
Yeah, so powerful, so important to have that. So please do get in touch with Nicola. And just before we wrap up, I'd love to know what's one tip that you'd like to share with people who want to really build their career confidence. What's one? I know you've got so many, a wealth of them. But if you were to share one, what would it be?
Oh, it's tricky. It's tricky distilling it down to one. But the one I'm going to share is probably the biggest learning that I've had over, I'd say, the past 10 years. Loosen the reins a little bit. You don't need to have it all mapped out. You don't need to have it all planned out. You don't know what's going to come up. You don't know what's going to appear into your life. Just be open to opportunity and see where that leads you.
Brilliant, as always. It's always a pleasure chatting with you, Nicola. And I look forward to continuing to work with you. And everyone, we will put the links for everything that Nicola has to offer down below this episode. And we'll also have her social contacts as well. She's very active on LinkedIn. Reach out to her over there as well. Thank you so much, Nicola. It's been an absolute pleasure.
And you. Take care, Lara.
That wraps up today's episode of the Mindset Coach podcast. I hope you found it as inspiring and informative as I did. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow coaches. Your support helps us reach more people and continue to bring top-notch content every week. Remember, you can always learn more about our ICF and multi-accredited Mindset Coach certification program, our coaching membership, and other training opportunities by visiting mindsetcoachacademy.com. Thank you for tuning in and keep striving to become the best coach you can be. Until next time, this is Lara Young signing off. Stay motivated and keep transforming lives.